Hello, and welcome to my soft drifting guide and tutorial for all the top builds in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. For those who don't know, soft drifting is when you drift around a corner at a slightly wider angle and build up mini turbos at the same speed you would if you were to do a hard left or right input. Here's an example of soft drifting. And here's a comparison between soft drifting and a hard drift. As you can see, soft drifting allowed us to charge up a higher tier of mini turbo without having to adjust to stay on the track. I've seen some soft drifting tutorials on YouTube, but I wanted to make one of my own and try to be as informative as possible when it comes to angles and such, so I'm going to be using a hand cam for each setup. I wanted to have controller inputs as well, however I couldn't find out how to properly set it up, so I do apologize for that. But if anyone could possibly inform me, I'd be willing to redo this with controller inputs. But even with just the hand cam, I understand that it will still be difficult to replicate and understand all the angles, but I just wanted to provide as many tools as I possibly could to help you better understand soft drifting. And before I hop into it, I wanted to quickly go over two other things, those being terminology and stats. I'll have timestamps in the description, as well as chapters, so I don't bore you too much. But with all that being said,
here we go!
So, I'm going to be using terms such as MT, SMT, and UMT, which stand for Mini Turbo, the blue sparks, Super Mini Turbo, the orange sparks, and the highest form, Ultra Mini Turbo, the purple sparks. I also might use the word lines, which is just short for racing lines, which refers to the most optimal way to go around a track. But with that barely 20-second chapter, let's get into stats. I won't go too in depth here, but the most popular character in the game is Waluigi because he has the best all-around stats, and also because he has a skinny shape which allows you to see more in front of you. But he, Roy, and DK all share the same stats, so if you wanted to, you could replace Waluigi for either of them, but I'm going to be using Waluigi to represent their weight class. Some other things that share the same stats are the Roller and Azure Rollers, Mr. Scooty and the Biddy Buggy, and Wario and Dry Bowser also share the same stats, so it's all just personal preference. I just wanted to clear that up for the people who don't fully know all the stats, but now I'm going to get into the main part of this video, which is soft drifting. So soft drifting angles vary depending on your mini turbo stat, so here's a chart of soft drifting angles based on the amount of mini turbo that you have on your build. Thank you to this redditor for getting all the angles for each stat. I'll also leave a link to this post down in the description. I will also leave links to the Mario Wiki stats page so you can get exact number stats for each character, kart, wheels, and glider, as well as a link to the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe kart builder where you can build a setup and see the exact stats for that build. So with all that, let's get into the first build. The first build is Dry Bowser on the Wild Wiggler. This build is an absolute tank on the track, so you never really have to worry about being knocked off, and you also have a lot of speed. However, you do sacrifice a good amount of MT and have an MT stat of 13, making it more crucial to soft drift with this build. So here's some examples of soft drifting on this build. yeah, it's much more of a chore to build up mini turbos on this build, but if you want to have a higher weight and speed stat, this might be the build for you. Now, on to the next build. Now this is personally my favorite of the four, and that is Wario or Dry Bowser on Mr. Scooty. This build is often considered to be the hybrid between Waluigi Wiggler and Waluigi Scooty, because you make up for your speed and weight stat being on Wario, but you also have a good mini turbo stat being on Mr. Scooty. You have a total MT set of 15 with this build, which makes it slightly better than Dry Bowser Wiggler. But with that, here's some examples of soft drifting with Wario on Mr. Scooty. But yeah, if you want to have a perfect hybrid between Waluigi on Mr. Scooty and Waluigi on the Wild Wiggler, then this is the perfect build for that. But now, let's get into the third build of this video, and that is Waluigi on Mr. Scooty or the Biddy Buggy. Now this build feels really good to use, and your driving flows really well. However, you do lose out on a good amount of weight and speed, but your mini turbo stat completely makes up for that because you can charge up mini turbos a lot faster. Now you have an MT stat of 16 on this build, which makes soft drifting less important. However, it can still help you with etching out just one higher tier of mini turbo. And now, here's some soft drifting angles with Waluigi on Mr. Scooty or the Biddy Buggy. But with all that, let's get into the final build of this video, and I'm sure you already know what it is. And that is Waluigi on the Wild Wiggler. Now this is objectively the best build in the game because it gives you the best all-around stats with speed, weight, and mini turbo, which is why you see it so much on online races. Now soft drifting on this build is really crucial because you have an MT stat of 14, which is only one above Dry Bowser on the Wild Wiggler. And it can often be pretty hard to get used to, especially if you're coming from something like Waluigi Scooty or Biddy Buggy. But either way, here's some examples of soft drifting with Waluigi on the Wild Wiggler. But yeah, that's how to soft drift with all the top builds in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Again, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get my controller input, but here's the general angle that you want to hit when doing a soft drift. But yeah, I hope I was still able to help you out, and I hope you learned something new. And until next time, Godspeed.